working.
The first hurdle is crossed.
Exciting. I just want to take the first couple seconds to thank 1 Million Cups for allowing me to present. I've been on meetings since about mid-August, and I am just blown away with what you guys are doing, how you're just this collaborative space and how you support one another and really help grow communities. So thank you it's kind of an honor to be able to present this afternoon, or this morning, sorry, I need more coffee. All right, so Globe Life Family Heritage Division is my company. I'm an exclusive broker, so it's not necessarily my company, but I am an exclusive broker of their products. So no different than say like a State Farm or a Farmer's Insurance, and then they have their lead agent, and that's what products they provide. I do things a little bit differently. So I work in the B2B market, which is business to business. And I'll talk about that a little bit sooner and how that translates to how this has been going on. So first off, who am I? Well, my name is Gabrielle Kors, and I am a wife, a mom, and a boss. I've been married now for 8 years. Don't let my husband see this. I've delayed a little bit too long in that answer. I've been a mom for 2, and I've been my own boss for 2 years, right? So if you can kind of correlate the numbers, I became a mom, and I also became my own business owner. And those two things kind of happen simultaneously, just because I've been in the Air Force for the last 15 years, and I've been a medic. So I have this history of taking care of people in a medic capacity, but then also I decided to go into graphic design and creative writing, and I got my degree from SMSU. I originally started off in Mankato, but there was some health complications with my grandfather, and I moved back home. So I worked in e-commerce for runnings, and then also with Bic Graphic. And one thing, amazing companies, but the thing that I tend to find out is that I didn't have the flexibility that I needed to be a mom and a wife and a boss all at the same time. So something had to give, and I decided to choose being a mom. And God bless those who can be stay-at-home moms, but I found out real quickly that I couldn't do that. So I threw my resume out on ZipRecruiter, and the Transparent Financial agency out of Minneapolis found me and said, "You have all of the qualities. Would you like to build your own business?" And that's how I became an exclusive broker for Family Heritage. So I started off with kind of the, if it works, great. If it doesn't, no big deal. And within the first couple of weeks, I had some of my first claims, and I knew that this was actually my calling because I got to take care of people. So why do I do what I do? These are just kind of, some of the highlights from last year, because this is my second year in the business. In the bottom corner there, you'll see one of my favorite clients. So his name is Ed Larson, and he's given me permission to talk about him. But he didn't actively choose to buy my policy. His employer actually bought it for him. And about 3 months after, he was down in Amarillo, Texas, and fell off the back of a semi-trailer and ended up in the trauma unit for 5 days. And this is just me visiting him in the nursing home and filing his claim. So what I do is I really take care of people. And how I do that is I provide supplemental insurance. So I work in the B2B market, and most people are like, well, what is supplemental insurance and who do you work with? Well, with anything serious health-wise, there are 2 types of costs, right? And it seems like everybody seems to know about the direct cost. There's not a person that I don't sit down with every single day that doesn't have at least like a $6,000 deductible, right? And so that direct cost is what, I think Mankato area is Medica and Blue Shield. And they're supposed to pick up the doctor's visits, the hospital stays, and the medical charges. What I do is I work through employers to help put a plan in place for families to help protect them from the indirect costs. I don't discriminate on who I protect. I can work with anybody. I can work with, a single person shop all the way up to 200 employees. And the thing that I find is that nobody knows how their insurance really works or what they would do if something, heaven forbid, were to happen, like cancer. And so my goal always is to sit down with them and educate them on just hypotheticals, right? So maybe they have savings, maybe they would sell assets. It's pretty common in my area, down here, more southern Minnesota, where the farmers are very rampant, right? They'd sell the East 80, is what I hear, or they'd sell a piece of equipment, which is things that I don't really like them to do. So I just offer myself as an option. We have 4 different policies on how I protect people, and these are just some examples. I have a accident policy, a cancer, a heart, and an ICU policy as well. And each one are very unique and very different. But kind of the big thing that really sets Family Heritage apart is that we pay the money directly to the individual. Something happens, it's in addition to anything else that they have. So whether major medical picks it up, whether workman's comp picks it up, short-term, long-term disability, we don't care. We just pay it directly to them, and then they get to decide. When I work with businesses, one thing that they absolutely love is that it can be payroll or it doesn't have to. It doesn't change the premium. They're not locked into administrative costs or fees or anything like that. And one thing that we're really unique about as a company is that once we lock them into their price range, that's the price they get to pay for the entirety that they hold their policy. And I'm sure you're thinking, well, that's great. Sorry, but you have to understand the products to understand my difficulties. One thing that really sets us apart is this return of premium. So every 20 years, what we do is we refund 100% of their unused premium, which we're the leader in the industry. We just don't advertise, right? So with that, that's part of our business model, where all of that money where we would be spending it on advertising actually goes back to our clients. And for things happen in the future that we all know about, right? Like they're never going to utilize this policy, so we refunded 100% back. Maybe life happened, we minus off whatever they use and still pay them the difference. Or life really happened and we pay them everything back. Plus, we're an unlimited bank account. They don't owe us a thing. Or if they pass, whatever's in the pot then goes to their beneficiary, right? So, how does that translate to the B2B market? Being the leader in the industry and having something that makes us completely unique where their employees can get back their money, one thing that I tend to find is that employees take jobs because of benefits. Some employees even stay in low paying jobs or high paying jobs or whatever job they have, even if they're miserable, because of the benefits that are offered, right? So what I do is I help businesses create retention, motivation, and satisfaction in their job, right? So 72% of employees have found more work benefits would increase their job satisfaction, just the option of them, right? And then if you kind of look, what I think is so funny is millennials and Gen Xers actually have something very similar in common, where they both have left their jobs because there was more advancement and more benefits, more pay, more options at a different job. So it's always my priority when I walk into these small businesses to help give them an option to keep that retention. So what's the primary reason that small businesses don't offer health insurance? There's a lot of them that I'll walk into and they're like, it's just too expensive, Gabby. I can't offer any benefits. Or I need a minimum of 3 people to offer this benefit. Or I need, it's too much of a hassle. Half the people want to do it, half don't. I can't come to a consensus, or I don't have the time to do payroll. Different things like that are always the holdup. Whereas where I can come in and I make it so much easier for people to just offer the benefit. I do all the heavy lifting, and then it's just immense satisfaction. I've worked a couple different ways. I've worked where employers have picked up the policies for their employees, like Ed's employer. I've worked where they've just offered it, or I've worked where they've contributed a portion of it. So right now we're kind of in this unique situation where healthcare is actually more expensive to offer. And so small employers are actually offering stipends and they don't know how to sort of bring that to their employees. So with that, right? Now we get it. I kind of did my own little market research and I asked a couple of my Facebook friends and groups, what is your understanding of your healthcare options? Do you feel overwhelmed when it comes to it? Do you feel confident? You kind of understand, mostly understand. And what I find is people kind of understand, right, for the most part, but they're not very confident when it comes to their healthcare. So one thing that I pride myself when I sit down with them is that they understand what they have and where we can fill in the gaps. I also asked, like if something serious were to happen, do you think that you would actually be protected? And most people said mostly protected. The things that I tend to find, and maybe the hardest part of my job, is not hearing, no, we don't need this. It's, where were you a week ago? Where were you 6 months ago? Okay. And then I asked, do you know what your current max out of pocket? Some people are really surprised when I sit down with them and we look at their major medical and they're like, oh, I thought it was just 6 grand, but it's 6 grand per person a year. So that's really hard for a lot of small businesses to take that type of hit if they're a business owner or an employee. So that's how I help people as well. And then kind of just ask them a different things, like if you had a live person, because some of the questions and the issues that I'm dealing with right now when I get to my COVID slide is some of these related poll questions. Oop. All right. So then I asked them, like if you were able to get your insurance premiums every 20 years back, how would you like that? And obviously a majority of people said yes, right? I feel like this is how insurance should work, especially in the major medical field, right? One thing that I tend to find is, employers are so exhausted and they'll say things like, well, you know what, we tried one of your competitors and it didn't fare well. Maybe we had a 20% enrollment rate. And I said that's about average for them. For me, it's like 80% because when you're given the option to get your money back, most people will take advantage of that. And maybe people who would have never signed up for the policy will now do it because it actually makes sense to them. So how is COVID-19 kind of impacting this market, my market, how I do business? It's been interesting. The first 3 months I was locked down, so I was working off my client list and just, reaching out to them, making sure I didn't owe them money, asking for referrals, which is not normally what I do. Normally I work with the town and I work business to business and I just kind of go down the line and introduce myself, shake a hand, ask them if I can show them how I work with companies and just go. And I'm sure you already heard some trigger words in that where it's, you know, um, shaking hands, can't do that. Maybe can't even get in through the door. So I've been reduced to emailing and calling, and not that that's a bad thing. I think that we live in a very future forward society, but the problem with this is that it's nothing like anybody's ever seen before. And unless you actually sit down and let me explain it to you, you're never going to grasp the magnitude of how this could impact people's lives. And when you get a call or email, it's so easy to just push it to the side. And that's when I finally get those, like enrollments 6 months from now, and people are like, well, where were you 6 months ago? And it's like, I, and it's like, I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner. Um, you know, I've also sat down with a few insurance brokers because maybe they'd be able to have business owners' ears. And I've heard, unless you use the Ease platform, which is all completely digital, we don't want to hear from you. And that's fine. I get it. But one of my big passions is making sure people understand what they have and how it works. and to just pass them off onto an email or a digital platform and not show them how it works, it's essentially, in my mind, a waste of somebody's money because they will not understand what's actually going on, or how they're spending their money. Also, you just don't know what you don't know. So unless somebody actually tells you how this works, um, people are going to be oblivious. And I've had to fight harder to get through the front door, to actually make that point. And sometimes the person that I need to talk to isn't there. And then they'll respond in email, yeah, we got something, that's great. And it's completely different. And I'm never there to sell, or protect people or take them away from a policy that they already have. I just always like to put them in a better place and educate them on what's out there. So those are some of my hassles that I've had in COVID. It's been interesting. And I hate feeling like a telemarketer because that's not my job. So, yeah, I'm open for different insights, how you guys can help me, where you might have some options and advice.
Awesome, Gabby. Thank you so much for presenting. With that, we'll move into questions and feedback. A couple of quick comments before we get into questions and feedback. One, if you guys can, if you can have your camera on, I know that that's appreciated by all involved. It just helps us feel like we're, closer to being in that in-person meeting that we'd like to be in. Second, with your names, if you can hit that rename button and click on the three dots next to your camera in chat. It'll give you the option to rename yourself. If you can put your company behind your name, or if you're with the school, you can put student or MNSU so that we know that you're with the school. That would be appreciated. Beyond that, if you have questions, you can use the raise your hand function or type your question in chat. I do know that Yvonne has a question to start us off.
Hey, Gabby, thanks for your presentation. I'm always most curious about, the kinds of things you were talking about at the end, right? Like, how do you navigate as an entrepreneur, especially in this, situation? Do you work by yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I have a team, right? And they're out in the field and we will communicate back and forth, but they're having the same issues that I am as well.
Right.
But it's just me. It's me out there all by myself.
In addition to the in-person, salesmanship that you do, could you talk a little bit about kind of the, the print or the digital ways that, you get information out there, and just kind of flesh that out for us a little bit?
So since COVID, I've been doing just kind of an introduction email. So I've had to come up with different, nice to meet you, hey, I stopped by, and it's really caused me to have to put things on a digital calendar as well. So I've used Candidly, to really schedule appointments and kind of put the ball in their court instead of hounding them, because that's another thing that I absolutely hate doing. And instead of me constantly reaching back to people and being like, well, I have a 9 o'clock or I have a 1 o'clock, what works best for you? I'll just send them a link to my online calendar and then they can pick and choose what day works better for them. So I found that works really well. Print, I have pamphlets, but once again, I try to be more sanitary in the COVID situation right now. So digital PDFs are a little bit more health aware. I know Blue Earth right now is seeing an increase in cases, and that's not the easiest thing, right? So people are starting to be a little bit more precautious, but they're also a little bit more COVID fatigued as well. And I think we've heard that phrase quite a bit last week, but it's just, so it depends on the business owner. Sometimes they're like, yeah, come on in. And then other times they're like, nope, stand 6 feet back, go in the corner. So
how about things like Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram, that kind of thing?
So I have taken more to social media to kind of do that free advertising, because any advertising that I would be doing is me myself as a business owner. So, and that would have to be kind of taken out, but that's kind of part of the digital, or the mission that we talk about, is because we don't advertise, that's how we can give you all your money back and save you on monthly premium. So I'm trying to find more free advertising, if that's even possible.
It looks like Brittany had a question. Brittany, did you want to elaborate on that a little?
Yeah, so actually we just discovered we're more on the property casualty side of the insurance, but we just discovered this thing called Bomb Bomb. And what it is you like using your computer camera, you record a video of yourself and you send that through an email. So instead of like a less personal, just like, hi, I'm Gabby, this is what I do in an email, you actually like do a video of it.
Oh,
It's actually really cool. So far, we've just started using it and we've just started touching on it. But yeah, we're really enjoying it so far.
okay.
So that way you're doing more personable,
Mm-hmm.
yet at the same time, like you're still, keeping the distance that they want. So
I like it.
yeah.
Thank you, Brittany.
Oh, and I know that there is like a subscription fee. I'm not sure how much it is. But yeah, it's definitely something to look into.
Okay.
I think I saw Christy Foss has a question.
Yeah, Gabby, I just wanted to tell you, I'm not sure if we've done this with you. Hi. Radio Mankato has a program right now. It's called Keep Cato Strong. And what it is it's a free 60-second interview. And so what happens is Brett Pressure, who's our sales manager, will give you a call via pre-recorded interview. It's 60 seconds. It gives you an opportunity to talk about basically everything you just talked about in 60 seconds, right? Kind of who you are, what you have to offer, how people can reach out to you during these like unprecedented times. And it plays multiple times in rotation on all 6 radio stations 24/7, and it's completely free. And I don't think that, I know we've set up quite a few people in BNI on that, but I don't think we've set you up on it. So after this meeting, if you want, you can reach out to me and I can get you all the information that you need to set that up.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
Gabby, one question I had for history. So you mentioned early on, how you had become a stay-at-home mom and then you started your business. Can you just talk a little bit about what that first couple of months was like starting your business?
It was, sorry, I have flashbacks because it was in the middle of winter, which apparently is back again. It's so hard to be your own business owner because you're only accountable to yourself, right? So there's a lot of different books out there, like, make your bed every single day, but it was literally getting up every single day, making sure that you had a schedule and you stuck to it, no matter if it was blizzarding out, no matter if it was, you didn't feel necessarily the best. Okay, now that considering, but back then it was like, I'm feeling a little dehydrated this morning, or I'm tired, or, it's still just getting up, having the routine. And so for me, my first 2 months was 5 days a week, which was really nice, because it went from 6 days a week doing 66 hours down to just 40 hours a week, but 5 days, solid. And 8 hours a day at least outside my house working and balancing that. So I also direct the local theater for our high school. And so in the evenings I do that, and then being a mom and making sure that I had sections of time dedicated specifically to family, to my extracurricular activities, to my business. And those first 2 months are such a blur, but I know the one thing that helped me through it was being strict on my schedule and knowing that, as long as I gave it my dead level best, which was, putting in my hours and my contacts, everything else would take care of itself. And if it didn't, well, then I would be a stay-at-home mom. But I at least had to give it my 110%. and I did. And I'm 2 years into this, and this is probably one of the best jobs I've ever had. It's just so impactful. So it's hard being a business owner, I'll give you that, but because you're your own boss. So
Dustin.
Hey, Gabby, nice to meet you again. So Gabby actually came out to the shop here, and we had a pretty good conversation about what she does, and which I still have the pamphlet for, and I'm still working on getting that completed. At least I'm in a process now of I'm possibly bringing in some employees, so I'm kind of holding off right now. So with that, I just wanted to say, great presentation. It was absolutely fantastic, and thank you for coming.
Thanks, Dustin.
Yeah, one other thing I had for you quickly. Again, so prior to coming to Greater Mankato Growth, I did business to business sales for 4 years. And like you, I can, I can hear the struggle with adapting to COVID, because I am so glad, to be honest, that I did get out of that business to business sales prior to COVID. Because I know how important those in-person connections are. That was a big part of how I did my business, and it was always about showing up. With that said, one of the key things that I learned in my time is the importance of, what is sometimes called campaign selling. And you talked about how you're reaching out with these emails, and I'm just wondering if you have like a set strategy behind that, or if you've been doing it more happenstance. And if you don't have that set strategy, if there's any advice that I can give you, it would be come up with your list of businesses and figure out dates and times on when you're going to send an initial email, when you're going to send a follow-up email, when you're going to give them a phone call. And personally, any business that you're targeting, I would be planning on 3 to 5 connections in a relatively short period of time, in order to start. I know you don't want to pester them, but until you physically hear back, hey, please stop connecting with me, we don't have a need for this, you're not pestering them. You've already told us you've had people say, where were you earlier? And I could tell from the way you said that you were there. You just weren't there often enough that you got on their radar. So that's the biggest thing I could encourage you to do, is set up these campaigns where you know when and to who you're going to follow up with.
Fair enough. Thank you, Ryan.
Are there any other questions or feedback for Gabby?
I was going to suggest maybe looking at area chambers and reaching either out if they have a direct person or not, and maybe making an introduction that way to then see if they could make a referral on for you, or again, have you present whatever capacity they might be doing now to their business groups. And it might be an opportunity to, again, just to open that initial door that they might follow up, or you could then follow up later to do more one-on-one.
Okay.
I liked your story, your personal story in the beginning, and then the photos of you like doing your thing like pre-COVID. I think those stories are kind of what capture people when you're presenting, because it's like, oh, like, I mean, you can look at the numbers and you can look at the savings, but when you hear like personal stories of it helping people is, I think, what people will remember when you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. With that, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in right now. So do we want to have one of the organizers ask our final 1 million cups question?
I can ask. Gabby, what can we as a community do for you?
I guess just word of mouth, spread of the news and support for me. Yeah. Sorry.
We'll keep
And any
coming back.
business. What was
Going
that?
back to Million Cups, Gabby. We'll keep supporting you and encouraging you.